Welcome to our Made for More podcast. You're here for our Let's Talk series. This is where we get in a lot of different people and hear about their journeys and what it's been like for them with mental ill health. We're going to cover topics such as anorexia, depression, self-image, and OCD. Please be advised that in these topics, they could be sensitive to some people and could be triggering. If this is you, feel free to skip to the next podcast. We have lots of resources on our support page for you, and we have linked below specific organisations where you can go if you need extra support. Hi everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Let's Talk. I am joined by Ryan.
Hello, Zara.
There was
Great
a pause,
to be
you
here.
just jump in.
Oh,
This is Ryan's first time on a podcast.
It is. I'm privileged to be here.
Yeah, we weren't going to invite him in, but we
I
did.
know. What about that? And I'm going to keep this a fist length away at all times. So
Yeah,
to
that's
be
the
here.
mic for anyone who can't see. That's what he's talking about. Okay, so on our Let's Talk series, we've looked eating disorders. Amber shared about anorexia. Richard shared about depression. And actually, we're just journeying a lot of these things. Jamie shared about his anxiety. So if you want to go back and hear any of those, definitely would recommend that. But today, Ryan is going to chat to us about self-image and how that can actually affect our mental health. So Ryan, just to kick you off, as you hear... You're making me laugh.
Oh,
As
no.
you hear the words self-image, what does that mean to you? What do you actually hear as we say self-image?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say what I would have thought self-image was for a long time is probably the external. So how I look when I look at myself in the mirror. What I look like when I'm different outfits, whatever that looks like. It's an external impression that I give to other people and how comfortable I feel in that.
Yeah.
Which it is, right?
Yeah.
There's a massive part of self-image that is the external and the physical. But more importantly than that, and for me specifically, it's been about what you actually believe you bring into a room when you walk into a room. It's your personality. It's how you actually perceive yourself. So when you walk into a room, do you think when you're coming in, you're actually bringing good, or do you think, people don't really want me to be here, or people don't really like who I am or how I am, and so it sort of encompasses more than just the external view of how you look, which is quite hard to comprehend, especially in this day and age where everything is external. You think about the social media world is portraying an external image.
Yeah.
And I think for me, Zara, if I can continue to remember, to actually maintain a healthy self-image is actually maintaining a level of confidence in myself and what I have to contribute. It's so important to do that. So yeah, it's not just an external image. It's also kind of how I perceive my personality, things I love to do, different elements like that.
So what I'm hearing is that self-image isn't actually how you walk into a room physically. That is part of it probably. But actually for you in your journey, self-image looks more like self-belief, like belief of self. What are the thoughts and feelings that you have as you walk into the room about yourself?
Yeah.
And that's more what self-image is to you. But in this world, and we're mostly talking to young people, how did you get, you weren't 17 at school with that opinion.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? And, if that is what self-image should be, something of what do I bring here? I actually have value to contribute to this room. But to a 17-year-old who only sees self-image as how they look, are they wearing the newest things? Do they look a certain way? If they don't look a certain way, they don't have value. What would you say to someone like that?
Yeah, and just to say, a 17-year-old me, I went to an all-boys school, and I think especially in Northern Ireland, in a sort of UK culture, but specifically Northern Ireland culture, the moment you even seem to hint at the fact that you've got some level of self-confidence, you're so quickly put in your place.
Yeah.
That, and especially kind of what I grew up in, I also got 2 older brothers as well. So just this idea of self-image, I was like, get away. I don't even want to entertain the idea of self-image. But I wish I'd had this conversation a lot earlier, because when I look back, I would say the image I was trying to portray was not the true image of how I actually felt, which is where I think it becomes quite dangerous for your mental health. And I would say,
could you just repeat that?
I think the image I was trying to portray was not the image that I truly saw. So,
Wow.
I mean, not to go too deep into personality assessments, but we talk a lot about this. I'm a 7. Shout out to all the
on the
7s on the Enneagram.
7 on the Enneagram, which is, for anyone who doesn't know,
It's like you are the life of the party. You are the hype guy. You love adventure. You may be slightly scatterbrained. You may be late to things.
Maybe.
But I was late to this. But yeah, you love, like, for me, I love people. I love getting behind people and sort of championing them and like whatever that looks like. And so for me, I'm also a performer. And so I can very easily convince people around me that I'm okay. And I never really was permission to start to talk about, well, see, when you're by yourself and there's nobody else around, what are you thinking, right? Like, how do you actually...
still that performer?
Yeah, totally, right? Like that was all stripped away.
Yeah.
And so if I'm really honest, and hindsight's one thing to look back now as a 17-year-old, but also there's times now, right, where I'm by myself and I don't like myself. I wish I was a little bit smarter, right? I wish I thought differently. I'm in a different stage of life now where I'm more focused on like leadership and thinking impact. Also, I'm 31 now, so I'm starting to think about legacy, right? And so I'm trying to think. So, and a lot of the time I'm then comparing myself to other people and going, I wish I was more like them, or I wish I was different. That's all my self-image. That's a perception.
Absolutely.
And so actually moving to a point, and this is, you cannot talk about self-image without saying you have to have people around you that know who you are and can bring you back to that. So I'm continually trying to come back to who I know I am, right? Like come back to what do I love to do and what do I want to see happen in communities, if it's in your school, if it's in your place of work, whatever that is. What do I believe that's in me that I can actually make happen and actually have confidence in that and recognize it's not going to look like everybody else's. It's not going to look like it's only going to be true to what's in me and having confidence in that. And so that for me has been such an important journey, because when I'm in that place of there's no performance anymore, there's no sort of image that I can portray, it's just truly how I actually feel about myself. I would say in the majority of time I didn't really like myself, and that's massively detrimental for your mental health.
Oh, well, I mean, I think what you've just identified there is really key. You know, what happens. So if you are personality wise, maybe life and soul of the party, the personality who feeds off other people, who is energetic, what happens whenever you're in a room on your own and no one needs you to be the life and soul of the party? Yeah. What happens when there's no one else to get your buzz off? What happens when actually you're just forced to look inwards?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, who am I? Because in a room where you're loud, no one needs to know who you are deep inside, because people think they know this outward appearance, but actually what lies under there. And if, you know, when we look what's underneath and we start asking those questions, well, actually what's underneath doesn't always line up with who we are on the outside. Like that really affects. So we actually have this thing that we have a battle of the wills going on. You know, we have one side of our inner self knowing that we're not that person, but this outer self thinking that all these people need me to be this person. Yeah. And actually, how do we, so what did that journey look like for you in the kind of transition, not necessarily transition, because you're still like life and soul of the party, you still walk in.
And I love that. I love being that.
And right? That is you.
Yeah.
You know, that is 100% who you are as well, and is massive. Like, you bring everyone around you with you on the journey. You know, you light up a room whenever you walk in. Like that is still you. However, that's not all of you. Yeah. Actually, there's so much depth in there. But how did you find that? Like, you know, I speak to young people all the time, and it's just like, I'm the class clown. And that's their identity. You know, that's it. They don't think even that they need to dive any deeper. So how would you kind of journey that?
Yeah, I think I think first of all, what happened for me was having the people around me was so significant, and so people around me started to actually lean into some things with me that I wasn't even aware of. And so often people who are a bit older and kind of been on this journey, maybe where I am today, I could then offer to somebody younger, right? It's a teacher figure or a coach figure or, sort of mentor figure. So that was massive for me. I honestly, Zara, like, I'm a massive advocate for counselling. Like I went for about a year and a half of counselling purely just to wrestle with some of this stuff. And actually, unashamedly so, I sat down in the counsellor's chair for the first time and I said, I have no idea who I am, right? Like,
Wow.
I know what to portray, but I actually don't know what's in here. Help me understand that. And it required a lot of vulnerability. And I think we're afraid of that. And it can be hard. Like, it is hard being vulnerable. But
absolutely.
when it's in a trusted space, it's the most fruitful decision I ever made. But then also after that, it's the relationships around me and maintaining those people that will permission you to be you and will go on that journey with you. I was told the best advice that was ever given me was that show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And the people around you are going to make or break you.
Absolutely.
So that for me has been massive, to just begin to understand, who am I? Help me understand this, right? It's going to be messy. I can't do this with everybody, but help me understand what's in here, and then permission me to actually start to talk about it and use my voice in maybe a different way. Because there's things in here that I wouldn't tell anybody else about and could potentially face rejection if I did, which I'm petrified of. So I really need your trust to help me do this. So I never could have done this journey alone. I need the people around me, but also that, like, seeking help, professional help, to actually start to open that up is massive.
How significant is that? Well, first of all, the counselling, absolutely. But second of all, you use this phrase, like, being around people who permission you to be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how unbelievable is that? Like, how is that, like, for young people to actually be around? So maybe you're in a space where you are hanging around with people who you don't feel like you can be yourself with, or they're kind of, you feel like you're in a sense of peer pressure. You're feeling like you have to act like you are someone you're not. Ryan's advice of permissioning yourself, like, you hear that, like, show us your 5 friends, I'll show you your future. Like, if you're hanging around with 5 people who are drinking alcohol, well, now there's just 6 people drinking alcohol. If you're hanging around with 5 people who are bullying someone, now there's 6 people bullying someone. You know, you're going to become who you're hanging around with. You're in that group whenever you do that. So, like, what does that look like for you, and how that? So, Ryan, thank you for coming and sharing about that. Thank you for being honest and vulnerable and sharing your own experience, because I just know that there's going to be people listening, young people, older people, all generations, just kind of listening in and hearing that journey of self-image that in this world that we live in right now, navigating it's difficult. So if there was anything that was impacted you by what Ryan says, please get in touch with us. You can look at our resource page, our support page. But thank you for listening, and the rest of our Let's Talk series is online, so please also tune into that. Thanks for tuning in to our Made for More podcast on our Let's Talk series. We hope you enjoyed today, and we hope you got a lot out of it. Please let us know what you think. We love hearing from you. Just a reminder that this is not a medical podcast. So if you're struggling with mental ill health, please contact your GP or use one of our links below for extra support.